It's going to be on how to nail the audition. I must have been to about 10 or 15 cruise ship auditions, some which went well and some were fucking horrific. So this is going to draw on all of my experiences with them, and it's hopefully going to save you a lot of heartache and things like that. So the episode is going to be broken down into 3 parts: the pre-audition preparation, at the audition, and post-audition, which is kind of how I used to break it down when I was finished with my auditions and things like that, and how I've been thinking about it recently. I applied. I had a bunch of websites that I was signed up to and subscribed to and things like that, and I had alerts on for cruise ships in particular, and some of those were Star Now and Entertainers Worldwide and a few other ones like that, which you sign up for. It's like a subscription fee, and then you get access to the auditions and the links that you can't get without subscribing, basically. So that's one avenue to go down, which is go through those websites, pay the fee, and just keep an eye out and put alerts on for cruise ships or the type of work that you want to get. Another one was Lime Entertainment, and a few of the other one, Pro Ship, things like that. I was with I kind of was applying with them as well, and eventually it was through Entertainers Worldwide that I got the link for the Carnival website, and so that's how I got it there. Another thing you could do alternatively, which is probably best, is to go directly to the websites that they have. All of these cruise ship companies will have their own entertainment websites to recruit musicians and people like that, and so that's probably the best, I would say, because then you avoid going through kind of a third-party company, which they might take fees and things like that, or they might take a percentage of your wages when you get the job. So I would say it's best to go directly to the website, directly through the company, and then you're dealing directly with that company as well for any communications and things like that. So once you've applied for these companies and once you've got your hands on these auditions and things like that, there's kind of a lot of preparation I used to do beforehand, before you'd even step in the room. And I can't stress this enough. One of the biggest things is to get your hands on as many different charts, drum charts, guitar charts, whatever instrument you play, get your hands on as many charts as you can, and just run through them relentlessly, and keep working on them. Use them as bedtime reading, or read them when you're on break at work or something like that, just so you get used to reading new material all the time. It'll come as no surprise that the ships require quite a high standard of reading. You have to be able to read to do this job, as they give you about, well, in this job particularly, they give you about 200 songs to learn before you come to the ship. So you don't really stand a chance unless you can read a lot of music in quite a short amount of time. So where to get charts from? I used to get my charts, and I still get my charts, from a few different websites. Online Drummer, there's another site called Free Drum Charts, then there's a classic rock drum chart place, and then there's also just a bunch of other websites that you can find online. You don't have to, I think a lot of them you don't even have to pay for. A lot of them will have free stuff, but then even if you do pay for them, it's not very much. It's like £1 per chart or something like that. It's not a lot, and it's worth it anyway. Failing that, email me at dan_lewis5@hotmail.co.uk, and I'll email you my drum charts. I've got about 600 drum charts, and I'll be more than happy to do that in order to help you with this. With the other musicians and music charts out there, I'm sure there's a lot of other websites out there as well. So once you have these charts, a useful exercise that I used to do is I would play them through with the track the first time I saw them. So I wouldn't look through them, I would just get the chart, and then I would either upload it to my iPad or I would print it out, and the first time I saw it I would play it all the way through, and I would try and do that without stopping. Because in these auditions they're expecting you, even when you make mistakes, they're looking for musicians who can adapt and who can play through mistakes, and kind of, it takes a better musician to kind of work their way around the mistakes than just completely stop. And so it's a really helpful exercise, and it really helped me with auditions and things like that, when I would just pick a chart out just completely randomly, and then I would just play it the first time I saw it, and I would run through anything, and then after that I would go back and I would make a note of all the things that tripped me up, or if there are any stabs that I missed or anything like that, then I would go back and work on those individually. But the first time I saw the chart, I would play it through. That really helped. Also, because on the day it's highly likely that's going to happen to you. You're going to get a chart you've never seen before, and you're going to just have to play it the first time. You don't get any prep time with these things. There were a few auditions where I turned up and I'd never seen the chart before, and you had, by the time you'd sat down and got yourself comfortable, you were handed a pair of headphones and a chart, and that was it. That was all of your prep time. So the more you can pre-prep for this, the higher chance you'll be fine and you'll get the job done. So with these charts, a lot of the time it's about kind of recognizing patterns. That's all I would say. Is there's only a handful of combinations that a lot of pop songs and things will use, stabs wise, and if you can, like I said, the more charts you can do and the more charts you can get your hands on before these auditions, the more patterns you're going to be able to recognize, so that when a new chart comes up that you might not have seen before, even though the chart will be different and the song will be different, you'll be able to recognize things from another song, like stabs in the song that you're about to play might be very similar to stabs you played in another song before. So that's another thing that really helped me, because I always struggle with stabs and filling in and out and in and around stabs and hits and things like that. And so that was something that greatly helped me, was just the more I saw, the more I could link and think, oh, these stabs are like another song that I've seen last week, say. Like I said, I would say most of the auditions that I went to all kind of ran the same way. You get there and you set up and you get yourself comfortable, and then they get you to play. I think I played 3 tracks once, but mostly it was 2 tracks. You play through 2 tracks with headphones. They're usually shorter versions of popular songs, so I played Smooth by Santana, and another one was a jazz standard, but they were much shorter versions, and so I played through those. So they'll usually get you to play through those, and then I think sometimes they'll get you to do like a rudimental exercise, not always though. Sometimes it'll just be the 2 tracks, but then sometimes they'll also give you a chance before anything else to play your own track. That's happened a few times as well. And then I've been to a few auditions, only a few, where they've sent you what to play beforehand, which obviously is bliss as a musician, that you get that prep time and then you can put as much prep into that as you want. That's only happened a few times though, and then you play that with a live band. But they wanted that one off book, so I think they only give you a few days to be off book with it, and it was about a 9-minute song, but you know, if you put in the prep time, it'll be fine. But yeah, so that's kind of all my pre-audition prep, is get your hands on as many different charts as you can. If you can't find any charts, drum charts specifically online, then email me or message me on Instagram or anything like that under DanLewisDrums, and I'll message back and I'll send you the charts myself. Because I know someone did that for me once when I was doing this, and it was a game changer. So thank you to Andrew Peck for that. Actually, that was a huge point, like a turning point in my development, getting ready for the ships. So yeah, that's what I would advise. Okay, so next, the next step will be at the audition, at the actual audition. So I also can't stress this point enough, is to be early. That's one of the biggest things I would say is the biggest, most important thing you can do, is be early, because at least be in the area an hour before. That's what I would always do, because you never know what's going to happen. The train might be delayed, there might be traffic. A lot of the time what happened to me was I couldn't find the venue. Some of these venues are really obscure, they're in the middle of nowhere. And so that was one thing that really helped, was at least be in the area an hour before. Go to the venue, find the venue, make sure you know where it is, and then just go and sit in a cafe nearby, go to a Starbucks or something like that, and just sit. But at least you know you're in the area, so you're not flapping or you're not rushing or anything like that. There's nothing worse than turning up 1, late, or 2, like flustered, because then you're off to a bad start before it's even started. So get there nice and early, go and sit in a cafe or something, find the venue, and then just go and chill out before the audition starts. Also, this has happened as well, where they've actually called me early to go to the audition, and it always looks good if you're there and available to do that, because from the minute you're contactable in the area and you turn up to the audition, you're being watched essentially. Everything you do is being watched, not just your playing. It's how you interact with people and how you hold yourself, and if you're early or late, that all of those things get taken into consideration for you and from your potential employers. So that's super important. That's the first one I'd say. Secondly, I would say with the setup, most of the time it's not going to be the setup that you're used to and that you think it's going to be. So get used to it. This is another huge useful exercise I used to do. I used to change my kit, so I would take away a cymbal, maybe your right crash cymbal, so that you only have one cymbal and one ride, and the hats obviously, and then I would take away the second tom, or I would put on a first tom, just so that you get used to playing almost, you feel what it feels like is someone else's drum kit. So you get used to that, because that's more than likely going to happen, especially because the person before you might have a different setup to you. But then also, not contradictory to that point, but kind of another important thing is to really take your time with the setup. I know you're going to probably want to get it done, because I did as well. You're going to want to get it done as quickly as possible so that you're not wasting their time, and there's always that really dead air where they're waiting for you to set up. But there's nothing more important than taking your time with your setup, making sure the stool's at the right height, making sure the snare's at the right height, so at least those things aren't gonna throw you off when you're playing, or if you're consistently hitting the rim of the snare as opposed to a rim shot or the center of the head, then that's not going to put you off. So that's what I would say is when you're at home, practice at different stool heights, different setups of kit and things like that. Take away a crash cymbal, take away a tom, etc. But then also when you get there, when you get to the venue, take your time with the setup. That's really important as well, because that's the last thing you want to look back on that's thrown you off, is that you rushed the setup time and that things didn't go right because things weren't falling where they usually do. So take your time. The examiners or whoever, your potential employers, they understand that you're gonna need to get it right, and you're gonna need to get your setup right, and so most of the time that I've done that, they've been fine with that. Another thing is to carry your drum key. Carry your drum key with you everywhere, and so that a lot of the places I've been, like I said, the kits aren't what you think they're going to be, aren't what you expect them to be, aren't what you'd like them to be. Sometimes we get used to our own equipment so much we think that's a standard for everyone, but it's not. So I've had a lot of the times the floor tom legs have been loosened by a drum key as opposed to the normal way that they're unlocked. Same with a drum stool, same with a snare stand, cymbal stands, everything. You know, a lot of the times we think they're going to be like ours, but they're not. So carry a drum key, just so that if things need to be loosened, heightened, lowered rather, you can do that because you've got your drum key with you. So that definitely carry a drum key with you to the auditions. Also, just to jump off from what we're talking about, I would say my audition for Carnival was actually much different than everything else. I'll talk about this when I get to the episode on my job and how I got this job and things like that. But also don't expect, maybe if you're in a country, I had a guy message me this week from South Africa, and I know Carnival, I don't think they do live auditions over there. I don't think they do live auditions all over the world. I know they do live auditions in kind of the major cities and things like that. But don't expect always to have a live audition. Sometimes it'll be an online audition, so just take that into consideration as well, which are completely different. Usually they'll send you, I say completely different, it might not be that different. Mine was that they give you 24 hours with a chart to send them a video back of you playing it, etc, etc, and they got you to send a bunch of your own material as well, and they got you to talk about how you work as a team member and things like that. So that was a bit different, but yeah, just don't expect it to always be a live audition. So with when you're at the audition and when they've handed you that chart and those headphones, have a really quick scan of the chart and look for any weak points, anything that's going to trip you up, and try and anticipate that when they ask you to play it. Take a few deep breaths before you begin. Try not to get in your own head about it. If you've done the pre-audition prep right, then this will just be another, just try and view it as another first time you've seen the chart, kind of read through, don't stop, whatever you do. If you do make a mistake, improvise with it and try and work around that, and you know, just play through it, maybe smile, laugh, you know, try and show them you don't take the mistakes too seriously, things like that. So then when you are playing through the chart, just try and read ahead a tiny bit, as much as you can, to anticipate the things that are coming up. If you know the chart, then great, but that's only happened to me once, where I've known the chart before going in, and so that was a tiny bit easier, but the arrangement was different, so also it felt like a new chart as well. Another point to kind of go over, and that's something I only learned through this job, that I didn't even know it before I did it, but don't always take the charts as completely read. Don't always play every single note that's on the chart, because sometimes what's on the chart is kind of more, it's more implied, it's more the feel of the song, rather than you have to play every single note, or you have to play that specific drum fill. If there are stabs, usually those will line up with everyone else, so I would say go for those. But when it's, you know, if they've pre-written a fill for you or something like that, or they've pre-written a groove, play that groove, but then also add a bit of yourself into that as well. Don't kind of play it mechanically and exactly how it's written on the chart. I found that's what's helped me throughout a lot of the auditions. I went to a few other cruise line auditions before this one, and I kind of put my own spin on it, rather than just playing every single note that was on the chart, on the groove, because also that's probably going to trip you up, because you'll get in your own head. I know certainly I used to, when I used to do it, if I missed a kick drum pattern, or I missed a snare pattern or something like that, then it would just be in my head the whole time that, oh, you missed that, rather than just playing the feel of the song, what's implied or similar to that. That's always helped me with when I've played through stuff on the day. Also, if you do attend an audition, and this has happened a few times as well, where there are other drummers there or other musicians there. I had an audition where I think it was for a European cruise line company, but the auditioners were from the UK, so I had to travel to get there. And when I turned up, it was like a band thing, and I didn't know that before it. They just asked you to learn some material beforehand, but there were 3 other drummers there, so there were 3 of every position there, and so they would put you into groups. So say I can't remember now, but maybe I was group 1, so they would be like, right, group 1, go up and play, and so we would play, and then group 2 would play, group 3 would play, group 4 would play, however many groups there were that they could find out of the musicians. And then they would start manufacturing the groups. So they would say, okay, drummer from group 1 and guitarist from group 3, we're gonna get you to go up, and then you're gonna play the same material through. And then you're being watched by the other musicians as well as the people at the audition. And so that wasn't the nicest experience, but that was also good, because it kind of helps with my next point, that always kind of be true to how you play. No matter what everyone else is doing, or what every other drummer is doing in terms of their style, or how loud or quiet they're playing, that all comes off their own experiences and how they've been raised as a musician and how they've played, and all of their background experience. Don't try and emulate what they've done or what they do, or if you think, if the first drummer up, this happened, the first drummer up played really quietly when I went to this audition. He played really quiet, and I could see the other drummers thinking like, ooh, maybe that's what the auditioners are looking for, and so they kind of emulated that, because that's what they thought, because he did it, that's what they followed that. And so I kind of thought, well, I'm not going to change the way I play, because that wouldn't be right either. And so when I went up and I just played how I normally play, and in the style that I always play in, and actually I was the one they kept on that day. So yeah, play how you play, don't change to how everyone else is playing on that one. And also, as an added note to that, is when it comes to expectations, don't expect there to just be one, the person that you've been emailing, don't expect just that person to be there. There might be two people there, two of your employers there, there might be 3 people there, 4, 5, there might be 1, there might be 5 and a sound tech. Like I just said about that audition I went to, there might be 3 or 4 of your employers and 12, 15 other musicians. You know, don't expect, I've done this before and it was my downfall when I thought it was just going to be me and another guy that I'd been emailing in the room. And so when I turned up and there were 3 or 4 other people there, that kind of threw me as well. So don't let that be something that's going to throw you off in the room when you get there. Like I touched upon earlier, play through the mistakes. That's a really big one, because on the job you're going to play through the mistakes, so you need to show them at the gig that you can, or at the audition, that you can also play through the mistakes in the audition. I know a lot of employers who I've now spoken to who said that that's a big thing that they look for when they're looking for potential musicians or singers or anything like that. Sing through it, play through it, act like it didn't happen, don't let it get in your head, and then move on and try and complete the rest of the song, trying to make as few as possible. But yeah, just play through them. It's a mistake, we're human. If they wanted someone that wasn't going to make any mistakes, they would use a CD player or an MP3 player, I don't know. So, you know, we wouldn't be doing this job if we were superhuman and we didn't make any mistakes ever. So just play through them, smile through them, and it'll be fine. Also, this is one that I've heard a lot from kind of the way more elite musicians than myself. Luckily, I have an interview series on my website where I've been fortunate enough and people have been kind enough to give me their time, who are doing the jobs that most musicians dream of. And so a lot of the advice they have is very similar, which is, it's really simple advice, just to be a good person, be a nice person, be easy to work with, and don't be a diva and things like that. So my point kind of goes off the back of this specifically with auditions. Like I said earlier on, they're going to be watching you from the minute you walk in the room to the minute you leave the room. And so just don't be an asshole, be a nice person, make conversation with people, thank them for their time, thank the sound techs, because it's their time as well. People often forget that. And yeah, just, you know, if this has happened as well, if you've been asked to stay for the rest of the day and you've been there in the morning, you know, I've often offered if anyone would like a coffee or something, because I'm doing a coffee run or anything like that. You know, it's a long day for the employers as well, it's a long day for the sound techs, anyone who's in that room, it's a long day, the owner of the venues. So, you know, if you can be the guy that just makes that a bit easier and makes that process a bit easier. I'm not saying you're going to get the job, and don't be a kiss ass, because no one really likes that either, but if you can just be that nice person and make their day a tiny bit easier, or make something a bit easier for them, you know, they might remember that. And like I said, they might not give you the job on the back of that, but they're certainly more willing to help you post-audition, which is what I'm going to talk about next. They might be willing more to help you then if they remember you as that guy than the guy who showed up, you know, maybe botched the audition and then maybe threw his toys out of the pram, which I've seen as well at the auditions where they just storm out, and that guy might not get re-auditioned. What you've got to remember with these auditioners is that you might not be good enough on the day, but then in a year's time or in 6 months, 5 weeks, whatever it is, you might apply again, and if they remember you as that nice guy, you'll get asked back and you'll be given another chance. If they remember you as the asshole that threw his toys out of the pram because the audition didn't go so well, or blame the equipment, blah blah blah, then they're not going to give you another chance. So yeah, that's a really big one. That's one that I found has really helped. Also, on that note as well, you know, if you're the first or the last, then help set up, help pack down. Like I said, just anything you can do to make their lives easier. Be someone that you would want to work with, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for a team player. They're looking for someone who's going to be easy to work with, is going to help out, is going to be a good representative of their company. So just remember that when you're in the audition room as well. So the last section I'll be talking about is the post-audition. So we've done the pre-audition and at the audition, and now this is the post-audition. The first thing is, and this has happened a fair few times, try not to go into this whole self-loathing mode after a really bad audition. I've had a few really fucking horrendous auditions, and you leave and you consider never picking up a pair of drumsticks again. And I've spoken to guitarists and stuff who feel like they never want to play again. So try, you know, maybe allow yourself a day or something like that to kind of go into grieving mode, because I know what it's like. You put everything into these auditions and you give up a lot to do this job, a lot more than people think. And so when you put everything into it and you've been prepping and you've worked your ass off to do it, it's heartbreaking when it doesn't go well. You feel like you let yourself down because you didn't play like you did in your practice room and things like that. But you know, allow yourself a bit of time afterwards to grieve about it, and then try and you know, pick yourself up again and move on from it. So usually after a botched audition, or after just a real bad one, I would make a few notes on my phone, or I'd write down a few notes, what I thought. Firstly, I would always go for the things that I didn't feel went so well, which might have been I missed a whole section of the chart, or I didn't read the hits properly, or I didn't play the hits, or I made a mistake and I stopped, you know, I dropped a stick, maybe something like that. I would write down the really obvious ones, and then, as hard as it may seem at the time, also write down the things you did well. Even if it was that you turned up on time, make sure you write in those things, because those things are super important as well, is to recognize what you did wrong, but then also what you did really well, so that you can redo the things you did well again. So if you turned up on time, great. If you got through the first section of the song really well, fine. If it was the bridge that tripped you up, then maybe write that down in the things that didn't go so well. So yeah, make a note, maybe on the train home, in the car ride home, that night before you go to bed, something like that. Or if you are truly devastated about it, then maybe wait until the next day to look back. But don't leave it too long, because your mind has a funny way of warping these things. So make sure you write down within, I would say, a day or so of the audition, what you did really well and what you didn't think went so well that you can work on, and workable things. You know, don't just write, I was shit. I was fucking rubbish. I don't know. Like, write down constructive things for yourself. That usually helped as well. So yeah, like I said in the last bit, you'll have someone who you've been corresponding with before you actually go to the audition, in order to set the audition up, times, etc., etc. And so after the audition, if it went poorly, then and you feel like you made a good impression on that person, I would say there's nothing wrong, and I've done this, there's nothing wrong with emailing that person and saying, for your own development's sake, you know the audition didn't go very well, and if they could be kind enough to give you some feedback on what they think you didn't do well, so you can have their opinion as well. I did that a few times, and that really helped, because they picked up things that I didn't necessarily think I did right or wrong. You know, sometimes they'll even tell you what they think you did really well, so that's a good thing. And then you know, a lot of the time they'll help you if you were a nice person and they are a nice person, then they'll help you do that as well. So yeah, they'll usually help you if you've made an impression. But yeah, like I said, email them, ask them their opinion, ask them what they think went right, or ask them if they can help. Also, if you know the audition didn't go well, mention to them that you would like to reapply, and also ask them if they have any other avenues they think will be good for you to go down. That I asked for that specific thing to one employer who I auditioned with, and I knew the audition didn't go very well. I really fucked it up, and I knew I wasn't going to get that job. But I emailed him because we had a bit of a rapport afterwards. I kind of stuck around and we had a conversation, and he actually gave me the email or the phone number of another employer and another auditioner. And so from that audition I learned a lot again, and I got to kind of final stages of that one. That was just a contractual thing that all fell through because of the contract. But all of these things help. So, you know, ask for help. Don't don't feel like a novice or an amateur or something like that if you're asking for help. Always ask for help, and usually lead to good things. So yeah, that always helped me as well. Lastly, in this episode, I would say just be relentless. Be absolutely relentless with this thing. If it went well, then great, and the employer will be in touch. Don't pester them. I would say if it's gone about 2 weeks and you haven't heard anything, then maybe drop them an email. But a lot of these companies are super busy. They've seen a lot of musicians, and so they're working their way through it. If you've got the job, you'll get it. Also at the audition, I would say don't, you know, if they want to talk about money and things like that, then they will. I've never brought that up because I've always thought you'll find out about the money if you get the job. And if you love this enough, the money is kind of like a side thing to the actual job itself. So I usually avoid talking about things like that. Like I said, if you get the job, they'll talk to you about the money anyway, and then it's fine to talk about the money because you have the job. But yeah, be relentless. That's the only thing I can say is what got me this job. Like I said, I went to about 10 or 11 auditions. I was working full-time in a theatre on the West End in London, and it was tough, and it was only through just sheer relentlessness and picking yourself back up after a botched audition, then an audition that went well, and that kind of gets your hopes up, and then you get to the final stages, then the contract falls through, and then you go to another botched audition, and you have to just really be relentless with these things. That everyone who is in this industry has failed a billion times, and I'm sure I'll be failing again when I leave cruising and I start auditioning and trying to get work at home in the UK, with the UK, you know, big pop acts at home. So it should just come as nothing new. It should be a learning experience, and like I said, you should learn from every bad audition. You learn more from than you learn from a good audition. And so just be relentless. You know, like I said, I worked in a West End theatre. I worked in the evenings so that I could have my days to audition. It took me about a year after I finished my master's degree to even get this job. So don't be hard on yourself if the first few auditions don't go well. Don't beat yourself up if it hasn't happened in a year or 2 years. If you want it bad enough, it'll happen. It'll 100% happen. Just keep working at it. That's all I can say on that last bit, is just be relentless. Be absolutely relentless. And so I hope all this information has helped. These are all things that I learned and I fucked up along the way, and so I'm really hoping that it'll help with your audition, no matter what you're applying for. If you've watched and it's helped, then I'd love to know about it. So message me on any of the platforms under DanLewisDrums. That would be really cool. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope it's been of some help, and see you in the next video.